Okay, today we'll start Yud Zayin Amid Beis, 6 lines from the bottom. Kivan Shiniskabtsu Golyas. Okay, we thank Hashem. We're able to learn every day. And in this chas of our learning, we should have the Beis Hamikdash for Shleima, for Yechiel Nasan ben Sarah, Aaron David Alevi ben Menucha de Lester, and Avram Rafal ben Sarah. Okay, we're discussing over here Shimon Hapikuli. Shimon, the cotton merchant, was organizing the Shemona Esrei in front of Rabbi Gamliel, saying which bracha comes after which bracha. And we were discussing the order of the brachas. We said why we start with Aves, then we say Gvurais, which is Magen Avram, and then we say, then we say Ata Gibar, and then we say Ata Kadesh and Ata Chaynan. We said why you say Hashivenu, Slach Lanu, Re'ina Vanyenu, Refeinu, we said was because it's the Bris Milah and Baruch Aleinu. We said that was the 9th bracha, because David HaMelech mentions the raising of prices in the 9th chapter, which we said was the 10th chapter. And then comes Kibbutz Golias. We quote a pasuk from Yecheskel. Now we say, once the exiled are gathered, then we mention that there's judgment for the wicked. Gather everyone together, and the wicked get judged. This is Yeshaya chapter 1. We're going to have several psukim from this chapter, one after another. I will return my hand on you, and I will refine you. Kabar, kabar is like soap, like a lye. Sigayach, your dross, the sediment, the waste. Uksiv. So that means Hashem's going to do judgment with. He'll refine out purify, and remove the wicked. Uksiv Ashiva Shevtaich Kvar Yishayna, and it says that I will return your judges as it was originally. So once that happens, so we have Ashiva Shevtaich Kvar Yishayna. We have Din. The judgment of the wicked was V'lam Malshina Malti Sikva. Yes, even though that got added later. The judgment of the wicked. And then we have the Tzaddik ala Tzaddikim, ala Tzaddikim. We have Kivan Shekalu Apayshim Misremes Karen Tzaddikim. Then the Tzaddikim get lifted up. Tiksiv V'chal Karner Shayim Agad, I'll cut off the horns of the wicked. So Imam Nakarner Tzaddik, I'll raise the horns of the righteous. The Kail Geri at Tzaddikim and the Gerim are included with Tzaddikim, the converts. Shenemar, where do you see that the converts are associated with the Tzaddikim? It says, from an elder you should stand up in front of an elder, and you should respect the face of an older person, which is maybe a sage. And next to it, it says, when a stranger will live amongst you. Okay. So that's why we say in Ala Tzadikim, we say Valgeria Tzedek V'aleinu. Yeah. Where's Aleinu? We have to put that in. Where do we fit in? Okay. V'hechen Misrei Memes Karnam. Where does the horns of the Tzadikim, where is it raised up? That's in Yerushalayim. Shenemar, Shalu Shloim Yerushalayim. Seek out the peace of Jerusalem. Yishloyo Ayavayach. Those that love you will prosper. Even Shenivnis Yerushalayim. Once Yerushalayim is built by David, then David HaMelech comes. We're already holding by a Tzemach David Avdcha.
Bracha of Lamalshi was added later.
Yeah. Now, however, we did mention that the wicked are going to be destroyed. So in this, we mentioned the judges return, the wicked are destroyed. The wicked are destroyed. The righteous are raised together with the Gerim. And then we said, and where is that done? The righteous race, that's in Yerushalayim. And once Yerushalayim is restored, then David HaMelech comes. That says Tzemach David. Okay.
Isn't Mashiach going to build the temple though? Isn't that the job of Mashiach?
Yeah.
But here it's saying that Jerusalem gets built
is
before.
different. Maybe it's not the temple.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Shnemar Acher Yeshuva b'nei Yisrael b'iksa Hashem es Hashem Elokehem v'estavid Malkam. After they return and they seek God and David their king. That means that David HaMelech Acher Yeshuva l'beis HaMikdash. So you're right. Rashi says it is the Beis HaMikdash. What are you asking? Let me clarify that. You're saying that Mashiach, the order of Mashiach is that Kabis Nidches. What does it say over there in the Rambam? He's Baina Beis HaMikdash. First he builds the Beis HaMikdash, and then he's Makabis Nidchei Israel, and then he's
destroys Amalek.
Yeah.
Not,
So you're asking that over here, the Beis HaMikdash is being built before Mashiach comes.
Right.
That's what you're asking. That's an interesting point. Yeah. Avram Nasser is saying when Mashiach comes, we'll answer.
I think I heard somewhere that like we could build the base.
Yeah, the Marsha asked this.
Oh, sorry, but it would literally create like Armageddon on our bikes.
I mean, without the
Yeah, it would create a big
right.
malchama.
Yeah. All right. Okay. So, Ukivan Shabbat David Basa Tefillah. Once David HaMelech comes, then we have prayer. Shnemar v'aviyesem al ha'kachi v'simachtem b'veis tefilasi. Doesn't say David. It says the Beis HaMikdash. Ukivan Shabbat Tefillah Bas Avayda. Once you have Tefillah, then we have the Avayda, which means the sacrifices. Shnemar elisem v'zivchem l'ratzon al mizbechi. We're continuing the same pasuk. I'll bring you back to the holy mountain, to my holy mountain, and you will rejoice in my house of prayer. And then it says, then you'll have the Avaida. So what we're saying is that we say Shema Kelenu after a Tzemach David, and after Shema Kelenu comes Ritzei, which Ritzei is called Avaida. So now after Ritzei, after the Avaida, then we have the thanking Hashem. Shnemar Zeveach Taida Yechabdani. Zeveach means the sacrifices. Taida is the thanks. Chabdani, he glorifies me. Why do we say Birchas Kainim after Maidim? It says the Ksiv, the pasuk says, "V'sarnas yada v'la'am v'yavarchem v'yerid me'asei sachatas v'a'ila v'ashlamim." So he does the chatas in the Eila, and then Aaron raises the hands. Raises his hands. That means he's blessing us. So the blessing comes after the Avaida. 1 second. Gemara asks, it says he raises his hands, and then it mentions that he did the chatas. So it says, don't read it like that. That's not the pshat. He had performed the chatas before. It doesn't say he descended the altar to perform the chatas. He descended the altar from performing the chatas, and then he blessed the people. So that means the chatas was first. Okay.
Chatas is the slachvana.
Well, the problem is what we're saying here is the chatas is the thank you.
Oh.
The problem is that the chatas really is avoda, is the service, is ritzei. So v'leim rachar avoda. If that's the case, then we should say birchas kainim right after ritzei, because that follows the way that it was done by Aaron in the inauguration of the tabernacle. says Leisal Kadaita. Don't think like that. Because we have another pasuk that says after Ritzei comes Maidim. So he sacrifices and he says thanks. So the Gemara says, well, in that case, then you have contradictory verses. You have one verse that says sacrifices and thanks, and you have another one that says sacrifices and blessing. So it says, why do you rely on this one, rely on that one? It says, oh, this is very interesting. Mistabra Aveda Vahida Chadamilsehi. It's a huge statement. What we're saying is that it's logical that the service in the Beis Hamikdash and being grateful to Hashem is the same thing. And so after the service in the Beis Hamikdash comes the blessing. So you have to have Avodah and Haida together.
Service and Thanksgiving is one.
Yeah. You hear?
For the
The
basic.
service, that's the pshat. That's why the word Haida, Maidim, could
That makes
mean to
sense.
admit, and it also could mean to say thank you.
Mhm.
Why does it mean admit? But what's the connection? Because every time a person says thank you, he's actually admitting that he's not in control. He walks around saying that I'm in control. Then you force him. He has to admit. Okay,
Wow.
I couldn't have done it without you. Okay, Umara Leimer Simshalam Achabrechas Kayanim. Yeah, I saw that in Rafutner writes that in Spachad Yitzchak. He writes the Haida, and that Haida is that connection, the thank you and the admitting. Mara Leimer Simshalam Achabrechas Kayanim. Why do we say Simshalam after the blessing of the Kayanim? The Ksiv is Samwa Shmiel Bnei Yisrael V'ani Avarchem. I will place my name on the Jewish people and I will bless them. Okay, so we have Birchas Kayanim. And then we have, after Birchas Kayanim, we have Hashem blessing the people. Now, Ubracha da Kadosh Baruch Hu is Shalom. What is the blessing of Hashem? The blessing of Hashem is peace. Shenemar Hashem Yivarech Esami Bashalom. Hashem blesses his nation with peace. Yeah. And Mr. Rohr, Sammy Rohr used to always say, mit gesunden menucha. That was his, he would always say l'chaim. He said that covers all my bases.
I remember that.
Yeah. He got it down to 2 words. So, that's all we need. Gesunden menucha. Okay. Now we go back to the how did this whole thing start? What do I need Shimon Apikuli for? The Brisa is not telling me Shimon Apikuli's instruction. The Brisa is telling me why the Anshe Knesset Agdala instituted it like this. Comes along Shimon Apikuli hundreds of years later and starts to tell Ram Gamliel what the order is. What is he really doing? We have it already from the Anshe Knesset Agdala. It says, Shacham v'chazar v'sadram. It was forgotten.
So he arranged it back.
He rearranged it back to yeah. People were saying it, but they didn't have the order perfect. I see someone would go to them and he didn't have a siddur. He would raise up his hands and say whatever poems he had. And then it wasn't set also, like what words to say exactly. That's how we have the different nuschais. No, the Anshe Knesset Agdala instituted it, but over time they set it up. Oh, you think they set the exact words also? I don't know if they set the exact words. They set the topics. Maybe the Baruch Atah Hashem they said. You think there were 2 Anshe Knesset Agdala? One said Chachma Bina and Das. The other one said Deya Bina V'Haskal.
No.
The Dar V'Dar Nagid Gadacha. It could be. It could be they had set words, but the words weren't ma'akiv. right? It wasn't ma'akiv if I say chacham bin das or de'ah bin v'haskal. So therefore, that would cause things to change, even if they had a set one. But if it's not ma'akiv, then, oh yeah, I do this all the time. No one ever told me I'm not yaitza. Okay, yeah, until you have to go and redo it, it's gonna, what's it called? What does it happen with the chromosomes? It's gonna mutate.
Try to play transparency.
Right. Okay. Mikan ve'elach. After you say the Shemoneh Esrei, asur l'saper b'shvachei shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That's it. No more praises of Hashem. You hear? You ever heard of such a thing? You can't praise Hashem anymore. The Amar Rabbi Lazar, my diksiv. We had a Gemara Pesachim like this, I think. My diksiv. Here it says it's in Makas. What's the source? It says Mi Yamal Gvur Hashem Yashmiya Kol Tilasi. Who can say the greatness of Hashem? He has to say all his praises. L'mina l'malal gvur Hashem. Who is able to recite the greatness of Hashem? L'mi sheyachal hashmiya kol tilase. Only someone that can say everything. You see, once you start, then you have to finish off. You can't start saying something about a person and then say stop before you got to the main point, or stop before you leave out. You can't leave out things. Remember the guy that wanted to know what they would say about him after he passed away. So he made believe like he died. And he's in the coffin and they're giving the speech. And at a certain point, he's getting frustrated because they're leaving out that he never ate cabbage because of the bugs. So that was a big deal. So they're saying he's this and that. Finally, he gets so frustrated, he pushes it open. Was is mit the kreit? What? So who can say the praises of Hashem? You have to be able to say everything, and we can't do that. So we stop. We only say what the Anshe Knesset Gdela told us to say, nothing more. Amar Rabba Bar Bar Chana. Rabba Bar Bar Chana says, Amar Rabbi Yechanan, he's a student of Rabbi Yechanan. He says, if you continue on saying other praises, nekam in oilam, could uproot a person from the world. He is super like Yadaber. Yim Amar Ish Ki Yivla, there's a pasuk in Yev. It says, if he speaks about, will it be told to me, will be told to him what I speak? If a person says, he'll be swallowed up. It means that if a person will try to say more praises, he'll be swallowed up. Darash Rabbi Yehuda Ish Kfar Gibaraya Varmali Ish Kfar Gibar Chayil. Okay, that seems like a location. Rabbi Yehuda, the man of Kfar Gibaraya, or the man of Kfar Gibar Chayil, he says, "My deksev l'cha dumiya sihila." To you, silence is praise. Sama dekula mishtuka says the Sama dekula. The Sama means the medicine, the antidote. The medicine of everything is silence. Yeah. Gasur Rabdimi Amar Amri Marava Mila Besela Mashtuka B'Train. They said it. Rabdimi came. He was a traveler. He went from Eretz Yisrael to Bavel, and he would bring with him statements. He says one of the things they said in Eretz Yisrael is that if one word costs a sela, then silence costs two. So silence is more precious than one word is worth a sela. Than a silence. Silence is worth two. Silence is golden, right? Yeah, in Yiddish, there was this old guy that said, "Has Shane Gerät." He spoke very nice. Aber zu nicht reden kommt es nicht. You follow? He spoke very nice, but to not speaking, it doesn't come close.
I think in Yiddish the saying is, speech is silver, silence is gold.
Uh-huh. Is that what it is? Yes. Okay. So it comes from this Gemara. Kara al peh la yatsa. If he says the Megillah by heart, he's not Yaitza. Minalan. Where do we know that you're not Yaitza? You don't fulfill the obligation of reading it by heart. Yeah. It's at a bar mitzvah once where the bacher, he read he read it without looking inside. They only found out because he wasn't on the right place. He read the Kriya. He read the Kriya Satira, not in the right. He knew it by heart because they memorized it. So yeah, you got to read from the Torah. You have to read mitay chaksav. That's why when you're listening to Kriyas Torah, you should not read along with your chumash because then you're not listening, and you have to listen to someone that's reading mitay chaksav from the text. So he reads from the text, and then you hear as it's being read from the text. You follow along with your eyes, but you don't read along unless you got the aliyah. If you have the aliyah, then you say along quietly. Minolan, where do you know you're not yaitze if you're
listening
when you're listening to Kriyas Torah
on a tape?
No,
For
for real.
He's speaking out, reading it. He's mamish reading it.
Yeah, the Balkari has to read it,
What do
and
we
you have to listen.
Not
Don't read along. You follow along, but don't read. Don't
follow
enunciate.
along, but we don't
Don't enunciate. Yeah, articulate. Because
so he shouldn't sing,
uh-huh.
sing along. Because not only was he not listening, but the people around him couldn't hear.
Uh-huh.
Surely he said, "That's not enough."
Wow.
Sing with the balkor.
All right. Is that possible that there's other minhagim that that other people sing along with the Balkaira? Is there such a thing? Maybe Yemenites or something? I never heard that. Okay. He probably didn't understand what was, last time he was in the show was years earlier or something. Oh wow. Wow. Okay, so where do you know that it has to be mitay chaksav? Amar Rava. Rava says, Asya zechira zechira. We learned from a verbal analogy, Gzeir Shava. It says in one place remembrance, it says another place remembrance. Ksiv hacha, over here it says, Vayam meil niskarim. It says by the Megillah these days will be remembered. Ksiv hasam, and it says over there by Amalek. Ksiv zaysikarim basefer. This should be written in a book. The remembrance. This remembrance should be as a remembrance in a book. Malalam basefer, just like over there, it's in a scroll and in the book, in the text. Afkan basefer, also over here, it has to be from the text. 1 second. Over there, it doesn't say that you have to read it from a text. Over there, it says you have to write it in the text. Maybe it just means that when you learn it from the text, but it doesn't mean that Kriyas Torah has to be from the text. It says, don't think like that. The Tanya was taught in a brisa. Zachar. You have to remember what Amalek did. Yachal believe. Maybe that means in your heart. It says you shall not forget. We already said that you shouldn't forget. We already said so don't forget. So what does it mean to remember? If you don't forget, then you remember. Amar Hamani Makayim Zachar. How do I fulfill to remember? That's prepared. That's with reading. So it has to be read basefer because it says Zachar. Has to be read from the text.
That's what remembering.
Yeah, that's what we have by Amalek. So the remembering is from the text. That's very good. Yeah, that's the emphasis. The remembering is from the text.
What's the not forgetting?
Not forgetting, but it means in your heart. Okay. Kara Targum Layatz. If you read in Aramaic, you're not Yaitza. The Gemara says, 1 second. Hey Chidami. What is the case? What are you referring to?
We're talking about the Balkari of the Megillah now,
Yeah.
not the individual
Listening.
who's listening.
Right. We're talking about, not necessarily is it in a shul, it's any person that reads the Megillah, he has to read it from the text and he has to read it in Hebrew and he can't read it in Aramaic. The Gemara says, what do you mean read it in Aramaic? What are you referring to? Ilema the Ksiva Mikra. Do you mean that it's written in Hebrew? The Karile Targum, but he reads it in Aramaic, like let's say I would do now, like I'm reading the Gemara, it's in Hebrew, but I would be following along and just giving you the translation. Let's say, like that's what he's doing. The Megillah is written in Hebrew, and he's translating as he's reading. So, Hainu al Peh, 1 second, that's actually by heart. He has Hebrew text, but the words that he's saying is not in the text, so he's saying it by heart. So that's a different problem. It's not a problem of the language, it's a problem of it's not written. It says, Leit Tzricha. No, it would go like this. No, Tzricha, the case is necessary to tell us the Ksiva Targum and Karle Targum. The Megillah was written in Aramaic and he read it in Aramaic. We're coming to tell us that he's not Yaitse. Okay, we're going to have a big discussion about language and all of this. So let's see. But you're allowed to read it for someone that speaks a different language in that other language. Chulu, etc. The Gemara says, but you said a second ago, that if you read it in another language, you're not yaitze. Now you're telling me, but for someone that speaks a different language, it's fine. Rabbi Shmuel Damri Tarvayo Balaz Yivani. We have a teretz. Any other language, you're right, is not acceptable. But when it says that for someone that speaks a different language, you can read it for them a different language, that's with the exception of Greek. That is the exception of Greek. That Greek is the other language that's acceptable.
But it sounds like that's because Greek was the language at the time.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, but we did have before once in this discussion that Greek has a special in this Masechta, that Greek is a special language. Yaftalikim liyefes, and the Sefer Torah written in Greek was kosher. We had that. Rav Shimon ben Gamliel's opinion. We had it earlier.
But this is somebody who doesn't know Hebrew but knows Greek.
Yeah.
Probably not too many of those.
Back then, there probably were. Yeah. Right.
Do we find a lot of vocabulary in Greek kind of meshed?
Listen, so many
That's
people say
interesting.
to me, this looks like Greek. It means that a lot of people speak Greek.
There is a
Chorus, I think it's,
yeah, but in the text of the Torah, there are places where it says that it's a Greek word, an actual chumash. There's an opinion that predates Hadar. We had it in Masechta Sukkah. Hadar means that it grows by water, and it says it's a Greek word, hydro. Hadar is really hydro, is Greek, right? Hydroponics, yeah. What's it called when they lift the cars? What's that called?
hydraulics.
Hydraulics. So we have a teretz. It's talking about Greek, and that's why it's kosher. Hey chidami, but what's the case? Let's say it was written in Hebrew, and the way he's reading it is he's self-translating as he's reading it from the Hebrew text. He's doing that translation and he's reading it. It says, 1 second, that's impossible because Hainu al peh. Then he's doing it by heart. We said by heart wasn't yaitze. It was written in Greek. Okay, fine. So we're talking about that in Greek, according to Rav and Shmuel, that's the pshat in the Mishnah, that it's someone that speaks Greek is going to be yaitze if it's in Greek. Other languages, no. How did we get into this? This is Ravacha in the name of Rabbi Lazar. Because Ravacha in the name of Rabbi Lazar says something, so we're just going to digress for a minute just to say. There's a very confusing pasuk. It says that Yaakov built the altar after he wrestled with the angel, and it says that he called it Kel Elokei Yisrael. So the pasuk says, where do you see that Hashem called Yaakov Kel? Hashem calls Yaakov Kel. Shenemar, Kel means like God or strong one, let's say. A judge, possibly, right? Keli Kako. Vayikra like Kel Elokei Yisrael, because the pasuk says that he called him God of Israel. If you say that one of the ways of reading that verse is, you see, the problem is the pronoun. He called it or him Kel. So who's the he and who's the it or him? So if you want to say that the he is Yaakov and who's the it, the Mizbeach, and he calls it Kel, Vayikra la Yaakov mi ba'ilei. Should have said Vayikra la Yaakov. That Yaakov called it Kel. Instead it says Ela Vayikra lai Yaakov Kel. It was rather it's Yaakov was called Kel. Umi kara Kel, and who called him Kel? Elokei Yisrael. The God of Israel calls Yaakov Kel. That would be the interpretation. Very strong words for a person. That Yaakov is called Kel. Okay. Meisvei, Gemara has a question. We're going back to our topic. We distracted because Ravacha Amar Rabbi Lazar. Kara Giptis. If he reads the Megillah in Coptic, what is that? Old Latin? What is that?
Aramaic or any other language.
Yeah. Coptic. What is Coptic? Is that Latin?
Coptics. Each of the Coptics are people. They're Egyptian Christians.
Uh-huh.
It's Egyptian here.
Or Ivris, or he read it in Ivris. That's the across the river. That was probably like, what was that? Phoenician or something. Ilmis in Elam language. Madis, Median, or Yavanis, or in Greek, La Yatsa, he's not Yatsa. Now this is a problem. Yavanis, he's not. One second. So the Gemara answers Halei Damya. This is not similar. Ela Laha, this is similar to something else. To Giptis legiptis. Giptis legiptim. If you read it in Coptic for someone that speaks for a Coptic person, or Ivris le'ivrim, or you speak it in Phoenician to a Phoenician, or Ilmis le'ilmim, Elam to the Elamites, or Yavanis le'yavanim, Greek to the Greeks. Over there, you're Yaitza. Aha. So it really depends on, not if it's Greek, it really depends on if you speak that language. Before we were saying that only Greek works. Now we're saying that no, it's not only Greek, it has to do with the listener. Does he speak that language? Or the reader. If he speaks that language, then he's Yaitza. If that's the case, so Rav Shmuel, why did Rav Shmuel have to answer the contradiction and say that there's a difference between Greek and other languages? You could just say, depends on the person's language, if he speaks it or not. You know what, you're right. We don't need to answer it like Rav and Shmuel. We could say that when the Mishnah says that if you read it in another language, you're not Yaitz, it's because you didn't know that language. When the Mishnah says that if you read it in another language, you are Yaitz, it's because you do know that language. It fits perfectly. And Rav Shmuel, we're not talking about our Mishnah, they're talking about something else. Rav Shmuel Damri Tarvayu, Laz Yivani Lakol Kasher. Rav and Shmuel both say that Greek is acceptable even to other people that don't speak Greek. Baktani Yavanis Yivanim. But we said in the Brisa that only Greek for the Greeks it works. It says in Lakuli Al Malay, but not to anyone else. They said, well, Inu Damar Reb Shimon ben Gamliel. That's one opinion. But Reb Shimon ben Gamliel holds the Tanan Reb Shimon ben Gamliel Emraf Svarm Leitir Shichtavel Yavanis. Rav and Shmuel are following Reb Shimon ben Gamliel, that's a big fan of Greek. And he says that a Sefer Torah could be written in Greek, and everyone could be Yaitz in Greek. So the Gemara says if they're just saying Reb Shimon ben Gamliel's opinion, V'leimer halachic Reb Shimon ben Gamliel, Amirayim are not supposed to create their own opinions if there was a Tana that said that already. They're just supposed to say, I follow that Tana. I'm not supposed to recreate it. So the Gemara says, I amri halachic Reb Shimon ben Gamliel have a meaning shar svarim af Megillah Daf Yomi Warriors. If they would just say the halachic like Reb Shimon ben Gamliel, then you would think that that's a Sefer Torah. But the Megillah, it says clearly that it has to be in the language. Maybe I would think it needs to be in Hebrew and not Greek. So Kamash Malan, they said that it's good in Greek because they're referring to the Megillah, that's also good in Greek. Yeah.
Just to recap, because I'm getting confused. Let's say it's a Greek Megillah. Both the person who's laying and the person who's hearing
Have to
each
speak
of
Greek.
them have to speak and understand.
Yeah.
So if the person who laying doesn't understand Greek, that's no good.
Right.
And if the person who's
Right.
listening-
What about Hebrew?
Oh, we're going to see about Hebrew in a minute. That's a very good question. That's the question that comes to mind right away.
Yeah.
What about all our prayers are in
There's not
Hebrew?
an
We don't know
exception.
what.
But then should one write Megillus in English?
Yeah. So according to the Mishnah, for English speaking people, it would work. According to the Mishnah, according to Rav and Shmuel.
I'm not saying will it work. I'm saying should you one actually write
Oh, so let's see in a moment.
Megillah and
Let's see in a moment. There's going to be there's 2 points that are going to say why we don't do that. It says, V'aloyez sheshama ashuris yatsa. Point number 1 is that someone that speaks English or any other language, Swahili, and he hears it read in Hebrew, he's Yaitza. So, first of all, you're Yaitza. Someone comes to shul, they don't know Hebrew, they listen, they're Yaitza.
Excuse me, so anytime we see a reference to
Ashur.
Shuri? It means any language?
No, it means Hebrew.
Yeah.
And the loyes means any language. It means a speaker of any language. Loyes.
Oh, so someone who speaks another language.
Yeah.
when he hears it,
In Hebrew, Ashiris is the
Yeah.
font that we have.
Rashi uses that for French.
What? Laz? Yeah, Laz is also an acronym. Lashon Amzar. A strange.
Some zoo, that's why it was French.
I know. Yeah, no, I think it's.
So Rashi's script is not Ashiru. Ashiru's.
I'm not sure what Rashi's script is considered. Rashi's script is an invention of the printer, just the words didn't mix.
Okay.
Yeah. It's easier to write because you don't have to lift up your pen so many times, because it's more like a cursive. It's Rashi. So, one second. You said someone that doesn't speak Hebrew, that hears it in Hebrew is Yaitse, but he doesn't know what they're saying. So the Gemara says that's not a problem. Nashim. So too the women and Ami Haaretz, they also don't know Hebrew. So, which women? Okay. So the people that are ignorant of Hebrew, they don't understand, but the Yaitse. Maskefla Ravina has a question. He has a question on the question. And you think we know? We know what it means, Achastronim b'nei aramachim. We don't know what that is. What are Achastronim? The runners, the sons of the thing. We don't know what that is. So we don't know either. Elamitzvus kriya persuminisa. You read it and it's persuminisa. So Hachanami mitzvus kriya persuminisa. They read it even though they don't understand it. They ask, Rashi adds in, they ask, what happened? What's the thing? And people tell them that there was a miracle. Yeah, so that would explain why we don't write it in another language, because we would have difficulty translating words that were not perfectly, we're not perfect at the translation, not exact. If he reads it intermittently, he pauses in the middle, and it takes like big breaks. We had this Gemara before. We had it in Rosh Hashanah. The Gemara, the rabbis didn't know what sirugin meant. So Shamuel Amsa the Bei Rebbe, they heard the maid of the house of Rebbe, the Karmelil Rabbanan Davi Aili Paski the Bei Rebbe. The students in the yeshiva of Rabbi Danasi would come in groups intermittently. And she comments. She said, she probably had to mop the floor. She's like, come on. Yeah, I just mopped. So anyway, so she says, why you keep coming intermittently? They figured out what sirugin means. They didn't know what it was, but from context, they figured it out. They didn't know what chalaglagos is. So Shamalam said the Rebbe, Parpachini. The maid of Rebbe saw someone that was spreading out purslane. Remember purslane? We had that before. That's the yellow flower there.
Yard. It's in everybody's yard.
Yeah, everyone has it. So she says, how long are you going to spread this stuff out? It's a weed. But so they figured out what it was, because from the context. What does it mean? Salsala, and you'll be lifted up. She saw someone that was adjusting her hair. The maid of Rebbe saw this person that was, combing or arranging his hair. How long are you going to adjust your hair? They figured out that masalsal means to analyze.
We just made the comment that women don't understand, and now we bring 3 rayas that the maids themselves know words that we don't understand. We learn from the maids. Very interesting.
It's a good comment. Dr. Stein says, just a minute ago, we said that the women don't know Hebrew.
Yeah, but this was in the house of a time. I mean, they had good exposure.
Yeah.
So did the women get to it?
Yeah.
They were all married.
No, I'll tell you, Ramesh has a point. See, today we have schools. So every girl could go to school, and it could be like from the house of Rebbe. She goes to Beis Yaakov, she's from the house of Rebbe, or any other school. No, there's no Sharbina. In those days, the men could learn. The women were given jobs. They didn't really go. So if you grew up in the house of Rebbe's house, or you were there, so then you learned. If you grew up on a farm, then you didn't learn. So women always learned, but depends on what. There were always women that were smart. The question is what abilities they had to access, how they were raised. Yeah, I heard this from Rabbi Teitz. Remember Rabbi Teitz from New Jersey, Elizabeth, New Jersey? He was like a great speaker. So his daughter is a professor somewhere. So she was talking about women studying Torah. So her comment was, if you grew up in Rabbi Teitz's house or Rabbi Soloveitchik's house, then you learned Torah. So Beis Yaakov just made it available for everyone. Okay. So what happens here is salsala v'terimeki. When you analyze the Torah, it lifts you up. That's learned from hair, from adjusting hair. It's funny that. Okay. Throw onto Hashem your Yehavcha. They didn't know what means Yehavcha. Cast onto Hashem. Amar Rabba Bar Chana Zimna Chada. Rabba Bar Chana says, now we're left the Amsa the Rebbe. Now we're at Rabba Bar Chana. He says, one time, I was walking with an Arab merchant. Because Darina Tuna, I was carrying a load. It says, take your load and put it on my camel. So it says, throw onto Hashem your load, your burden. That's what it means. They figured it out. What does it mean? Something will be destroyed with the metata. Shamua la'amsa de Rebbe, back to the maid of Rebbe. The maid tells her friend, take a broom and sweep the house. So it says that the broom, that they'll destroy it with the sweeping of a broom, like sweep it out. Tana Rabbanan, start on the Brisa Kari Sirugim, if someone reads the Megillah, but with great pauses, right? He pauses in the middle, takes breaks. Yatsa. He's yaitza. It's no problem. Sirusin is to splice. You take out a part and you put the two ends together, and then you read the other part later. Right? You skipped the pasuk or something, so but you read without a pasuk. Afterwards, you put it back. Like editing, right? So, lo yatsa, then you're not yatsa. And now the reason is because that's considered karla mafreya. You read it out of order. Megillah needs to be read in order. Rav Moina Amar Mishum Rab Yehuda Af Besirugin, that there's a problem even if you take pauses. Im shakadei ligmar skula chayzel reish. He says if you pause the amount of time that it takes to do the whole Megillah, you have to start over. It resets, and you have to start from the beginning. Amar Rav Yosef.
If you take too long? Or?
Yeah, if the pause is too long,
Interesting.
so it starts over. Your time ran out.
When they make all the noise and we're pausing,
Yeah,
is that the same as this pause?
probably. Dr. Stein is saying that if the banging by Haman takes the time that you have to read the whole Megillah, you have to start over. Yeah, that's how they read the Megillah all day. Okay. Amar Rav Yosef Alach Krab Meina Sham Mishum Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yosef says the halacha is like this. You have to start over if you pause. You can't just read, every hour you read another perek. You can't just do it like that, because you could read the whole Megillah within that hour, within the pause. Amalei Abaya le Rabbi Yosef. Rabbi Yosef says halacha is like Rab Meina. So Abaya, who's a student of Rabbi Yosef, he asks his teacher the following question: when you say that the pause is long enough to finish it, do you mean to finish from where I got up to? Or do you mean to read the entire Megillah from beginning to end? It's a very important question. Like, it wasn't clear. Amalei Mireshel Sefer, the entire Megillah. Because if not, then Chazal don't like to make things that up to a person's discretion, whatever, this, that, every time it's a different shir. They said a shir. That's in general for the mitzvahs. If a pause, like if a person takes off his talis, he has to say a new bracha after a certain amount of time. says 2 or 3 hours. The commentaries say that when Alter Rebbe writes 2 or 3 hours, what he means is during the weekday it's 2 hours, and on Shabbos it's 3 hours, because that's how long you wear it for. That's a possible pshat. Or maybe Nasata Devrech L'Shirim, depends who's davening, right? So, okay. Amar Rababa, Rabbi Yirmiyah bar Abba, Amar Rav, Halach Rab Maina. Rababa, name of Rabbi Yirmiyah bar Abba, and the name of Rav. The halach is like Rab Maina, you have to start over. Shmuel Amar Ein halach Rab Maina. Shmuel says you don't have to start over. You can read a chapter an hour and just, take a big pause and a break. Surah Masno Hachi, B'Pumpadisa Masno Hachi. And that's how it was taught in Surah. In Pumpadisa, they taught it like this. Amar Rav Kana, Amar Rav, halach Rab Maina. Okay? It's Rav Kana name of Rav that halach is like Rab Maina. Yeah, you have to start over. Shmuel Amar Ein halach Rab Maina. Shmuel says no. You don't have to start over. If this is meaningless, so just think about that halacha Rav be suri. So only look at Rav, and that's like would be the critical. Rav holds that in this case that halacha is like Rav Maina. That means you have to start over. Rav Bibi masni yepcha. The only thing is Rav Bibi learned it the opposite. He said Rav Amar ein halacha Rav Maina, that you don't have to start over. Oh, it's a big heter. Shmuel Amar halacha Rav Maina. Shmuel says halacha like Rav Maina. Amar Rav Yosef nekaita Rav Bibi biyadcha. You should follow Rav Bibi. Rav Bibi says that the halacha is not like Rav Maina. You could be lenient, according to Rav.
It says the name is Bevai.
Bevai. Okay, fine. In yeshiva they said Rav Bibi Barabaya. Yeah.
The art scroll says BV, just so you know.
The art scroll follows the yeshiva. What is it? What do you
Funny.
have? What did they take from? The Hebrew is taken from the Steinsaltz translation, I think. Yeah, I can't hear.
It says they're Bevai. It says they're Bevai.
Right. But who is Gemara? Does the Dvar Malchus use?
I think it's Steinsaltz.
I think it's Steinsaltz Hebrew in the Eis V'Hadar translation. I think that's how they did it. Yeah.
See how I stick up for you?
Yeah, very nice. Thank you. Okay, so the Tanah, because Shmuel is the one, the Chayash Liachidai. Shmuel is the one that he follows that other opinion, stricter opinion. The Tanan, because it was taught in the Mishnah, a very strange example of this. It said like very not associated, not connected. The Tanan, Shemeres Yabim Shekida Shachav Esachaisa. You see, if a brother passes away and he doesn't have children, so his brothers are supposed to marry that wife. Let's say one of those brothers is already did kedushin, betrothed to the sister of the widow. He's not going to be allowed to marry. This is like an introduction. That's what it's doing. It's introducing us to Yavamas. He's not allowed to marry his wife, his fiance, and then marry the sister. So it turns out that right now he has a zika, a connection to the woman, to the widow. So he shouldn't be marrying another woman that's going to forbid him. So what they say is like this: Mishum Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira Amru, in the name of Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira, they said, you know what? Wait for your brother to come and marry the Yavama, the widow. Then the mitzvah has already been performed. Then you go and marry that. And Amar Shmuel Alach Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira. And Shmuel says Allah like Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira. So we see that Shmuel is chayish to a singular opinion. So Shmuel is also chayish to Rab Maina. Interesting. It's like a strange. That's what does it have to do with starting the Megillah over again? I don't know. Tan Rabbanan. Hishmit as a sefer oisies oipsukim v'karna kaira kimetur. Is that what it says over there? No. Oh, okay. Yeah. Dr. Stein says because she's starting her life over again. So if the sefer, yeah, Chalitza would also, but any mitzvah that just have to resolve the issue. Hishmit bas sefer oisies. The sefer left out letters. Oipsukim, or he left out a whole pasuk. V'karna kaira, but the one that was reading it noticed that it was missing. So he read it by heart. He's a real expert. He added it in. He filled in the missing things. K'meturgaman ha'metargim. Or k'metargim ha'meturgim, probably. What's the aleph? The way a translator would do that. That he could add in on his own. So he says, Yatza, it's fine. The Gemara says, 1 second. Meisvei. We have, if the letters are cracked or like are ruined, but if you can still see them, it's kosher. But if you can't see them, it's not kosher. Now, if that's the case, so here we have letters that are missing, so you can't see them. It shouldn't be kosher. But this is even in the Megillah. It says like kasha habakul hab. It depends if it's the entire Megillah or just a few words. You hear? A few words missing in the Megillah is fine. That's why in Megillah the halachas are more lenient. The first thing they write is a Megillah for other reasons. It's not Hashem's name and whatever.
You can touch the parchment, I think.
Oh yeah, you can touch the parchment of the Megillah. Interesting. Tanraban hishbit ba'akira pasuk echad layomer ekres kulavach kach ekreis pasuk. Let's say the Balkaira forgot to say a pasuk. You shouldn't say. I'll finish off. I'll say it later. Don't worry. You have to go back to the missing pasuk and continue. He goes into shul. He sees he missed the first pasuk. He missed the half the Megillah. So he says, "I'll listen now," and then in the next minyan, I'll hear the first half. You have to start at the beginning. Let's do one more small piece. Misnamnem yatzef, he's falling asleep. He's yaitze. Echidam misnamnem, what does it mean falling asleep? Dozing off. Amar Ravashi nim v'lei nim. He's asleep, but he's not asleep. Tir v'lei tir. He's awake, but he's not awake. The karolei v'ani, if they call him, he responds. But he can't say anything logical. He can't. This is when the children ask for permission if they can go to their friend's house or whatever. So yeah, I thought you nodded. But then when you remind him the next day, he remembers what happened. Okay, let's leave it over here. A good Shabbos, everyone.
Shabbos have a wonderful Shabbos.
Shabbat shalom.
For Shabbos.
Shabbos.
Shayward.
Enjoy the Shabbaton, Ramesh.